I had forgotten that I let my son use this for his classroom Zoom sessions before over the end of the year, and that was the last time it was used, and it was named for him.
I've showed up to quite a few meetings as Howard. Always fun. Or whatever other clever thing he'd named himself for the day. 6th grade humor, real fun.
Yeah, I got to get reused to Zoom. We've been using Google Meet for our school, so trying to get the settings organized again.
Okay, I guess today is going to be all about playing with new features. I think that what I was just able to do was to pin our panelists. What's that look like for somebody else out there? So are you seeing Amanda and Kelley and Tim and Terra on your screen, or is that just for me? Oh, no, some of you are, some of you aren't. Maybe it's if you have that new version. Okay, well, we'll give it a try. Samantha, are we good to start, do you think?
You are good. Everyone has been sorted, and I'll handle anyone that comes in late.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so thanks again, everybody, for being here. What I'm going to start with, words are hard. What I'm going to start with is asking you first off, if you have specific questions for the panelists, would you feel free at any point to put those in the chat or to unmute yourself and ask. We really do want this to be meaningful time for you. The other thing that we would love for you to do is in the chat, also go ahead and feel free to contribute. So we know that that none of us are the expert. We all have lots of experience and we want to share with each other. So these were the 4 people that we all had connections to kind of like twist their arm and be like, hey, can you help us out? Please, 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 please. So please feel free to also contribute and add to the conversation tonight. So we'll start with that. But what I would like for our panelists to do is to introduce themselves. If you would tell us where you teach, what your role is, and maybe a little bit of your background just to get us started, that would be great. Kelley, would you mind starting?
Nope, I'm fine. My name is Kelley Molitor. I teach in Osage. I've been here for 19 years now. I used to teach social studies. I am the K-12 teacher librarian. I am also the K-12 tech coach. I teach 2 sections of middle school computer science, and I teach 1 block of high school project-based learning, which is like Iowa Big, but our term for it is LEAD. What else did you need to know, Corey?
I think that's perfect. Thank you. Amanda, would you be willing to go next?
Yeah, that's fine. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay. My name is Amanda Miller, and I've been teaching for 10 years, all the things computer-based, but I started teaching here in Iowa computer science just 2 years ago with Marshalltown's intermediate school's first computer science program, so they finally got one, and I've been teaching that this is my 2nd year, and it's going really great. Any other questions? All right.
That's awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Tim, would you go next?
Okay, my space stopped working. Okay. Hi, I'm Tim Titus from Madrid. I'm junior high math teacher. I had to fight, claw, and scratch to get more computer science in my class. I kind of just ad hoc'd it for about 3 or 4 years, and then finally was able to get things through code.org to get a little more official. I've been teaching for 16 years now, so I'm kind of techie background, so that's where I tend to be drawn towards the computer science and all the robotics and fun things that I can do.
Great. And then Terra.
Hi, my name is, can you guys hear me? Making sure, okay. So my name is Terra Hubert, and I teach at Mid-Prairie Middle School. This is my 15th year there. I started teaching as a science teacher, so that's my background. But I was able to convince my school district that we needed a STEM position And back in 2017, I started teaching our STEM program. So I teach 5th grade through 8th grade STEM. And so in 6th grade is where I started to teach computer science. So I use computer science discoveries. And then I started with Project Lead the Way robotics. So their automation and robotics program in 8th grade, but then have since then have kind of modified it to fit more of our needs of our students. And so that's what I do.
All right, so I'm going to have Terra leave her mic on. So first question for our panelists is, what are some ways you're teaching computer science in your setting? And the other thing, I think, especially for middle school, that would be interesting to hear is who's teaching computer science in your building besides you, if anybody? And then can you talk a little bit about class structure? Like how often are you seeing kids? And how long do you typically see them when you do get to see them? Sorry, Terra.
Yeah. So I guess, Corey, do you want me to talk about this year? Because this year is very different than the past years. So I didn't know.
Yeah, go ahead. Whatever you're comfortable with. Terra and I have talked at length about what's happening for her this year.
So I actually have started implementing a little bit of computer science in each grade level, just because of the fact of I don't think they're getting enough computer science, and it's hard to go ahead and build that scope and sequence. So I've started building computer science lessons into my 5th grade STEM class. And then I have a class, my 6th grade class is geared just for computer science, but we do a lot of other things in addition to it. I then also I'm starting to embed more computer science into my 7th grade class as well. So we're using CoSpaces. So since we're working on design and modeling, I'm starting to implement some more computer science into my class, 7th grade class as well. And then 8th grade is robotics. And so I typically, this year, I see my 5th graders just once a week. So I see them each day, but once a week for 30 minutes. And then in my 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade classes, right now our schedule is set up so that I have right now I currently have my 7th grade students. I see them for 42 minutes and a 3-week rotation. So I have to teach those kids for 3 weeks, and then I get another grade level. So I'll be getting 6th grade next, and I teach them for 3 weeks with 42 minutes a day. And then I switch to my 8th grade for 3 weeks and 42 minutes a day. So it's kind of my schedule of what I have so far.
And Terra, is anybody else in your building teaching computer science that you know of?
No.
Okay. Or like doing any sort of integration?
We've started talking about trying to start using at least common language. So obviously with math, we talk about algorithms. So getting the kids to start understanding some basic common language as far as understanding concepts. But we really haven't gone into too much with having anybody else dive into it yet. My fingers are crossed, so I'm hoping.
Oh, mine too. Well, I'll cross our fingers. Okay, panelists, would anybody love to go next? Same question. Go ahead, Tim. Thank you.
All right, my situation's kind of similar, where just finding a way to get it done in our building is pretty difficult. I'm in a small district. We're class A this year, so if that tells you anything. But I'm the only one in the junior high who teaches it, and there's nobody in the high school who does. Nobody else even seems interested, which kind of makes me really honestly sad about it. And in order to get it to work out, I had to not only just volunteer to do it, but kind of push and fight for it. And I believe what was really telling was when my principal set up a meeting in the summer, and I said, sure, I'll see you there. And he said, oh, you actually showed up for a meeting in the summer. That tells me that you actually care. Otherwise, most people just kind of don't care about these projects and drop them. So they finally did end up working with me, but COVID set us back a whole year of what our plans were, unfortunately. And that was really frustrating because we finally, second semester last year, we finally got a 6-week course. I was able to teach a 6-week course 3 different times for 7th and 8th grade of computer science as an actual full scope and sequence, and I was able to use code.org. I believe we used unit 5 to try to really, or unit 4 to really get into the meat and potatoes of things, but the game lab, and it was a big hit. And then COVID struck and cut out our last group. And then they said, well, for this year, we're going to restart. And I mean, second semester, I get to start teaching it again. So until then, I kind of supplement with some other resources, like Code Combat is one that I use a lot, and my kids absolutely love. I actually just got an email from a teacher asking if it's graded because they keep doing that instead of their work. So that's good at least, but then still it's the ones who are interested, not necessarily everybody getting involvement, which means that it's still a select group, and I don't like that.
Amen. Preaching to the choir, Tim. Thanks. Amanda, could I ask you to go next? We'll just go back. We'll keep whipping backwards, forward.
So in my school, I teach 5th and 6th graders, and I teach CS as computer science as a specials class. In the specials rotation, it's a 6-day cycle rotation for 45 minutes each time. And so I see usually 2 classes of 6th graders and then 3 classes of 5th graders each day in a 6-day rotation. And usually I go into teachers' rooms. I have since last year, and some of the other specialist teachers had to switch to that with COVID, but I was like, no problem, I already do that. So I go into teachers' classrooms because we work on the student Chromebooks, and they already have them in there, and they already have all their stuff in there that they need. And so I go into teachers' classrooms, and I either do direct teaching on a projector that I have on a cart, or we just jump right into it from Google Classroom and just jump right into our lesson. I also have teachers in my school who integrate coding into, we have a plan integrating coding into all of our core subjects. This year we're adding literacy. So last year it was math and science, and this year it's literacy. So I have to basically build a foundation on which they can create these coding projects for the core subjects. And with 5th grade, I'm using 4th grade code.org because they haven't had a lot of CS yet in their school. We're working up to adding more in the elementary. With 6th grade, I'm doing Project Lead the Way this first semester. And it's very apropos, the infection and modeling and simulation. So they're actually going to build a simulation that is about infection. So, and yeah, I think that's it. Anything else?
Nope. Good. Thanks, Amanda. All right, Kelley.
I'm in kind of a unique position because I get to do stuff K-12. And so I can help with lots of different things. But as far as the middle school goes, we are teaching computer science discoveries. We've done the CS fundamentals with code.org down at the lower levels. And then we do a lot with Scratch and Scratch Junior. In the middle, we do some Scratch stuff, like build games of operation in science classes, things like that with the 5-6. Use some Google CS first with the literacy piece. Being the librarian and tech person, I buy a lot of tools. And so you name it, I think I've got it. So that's a way to coax the teachers into trying things in their curricular areas. We teach all 7th grade units 1 through 3 in code.org discoveries. And then with the 8th grade, we're doing some different stuff this year. We started with code.org, but this summer we got a bunch of the STEM grants, STEM scale-up grants. And so we're going to do some bootstrap data science with them, the VEX VR robots. And then we got permission to do the first unit of Project Lead the Way cybersecurity with our 8th grade. We felt like that would be a really good way to give them a flavor of a lot of things. So when they get to high school, they have more opportunity. Our high school then teaches game design and Python and Java and web design and everything you can think of, because we just keep trying to build that as much as we can. 2 other teachers teach middle school computer science as well. One is our tech director. He teaches one section of it. We meet with kids every other day for about 30 or 35 minutes all year long. And so you can build that continuity throughout the year because it's basically a semester long class, but it's throughout the year. Let's see, I was looking at the other questions.
Kelley, when did Osage start working on getting computer science into your curriculum?
When I started in the library about 7 years ago, we started to build at the elementary level. So what happened was we took some code and then we got all our teachers to take code that were elementary teachers. Then they did the second round of code as well. Then we've gotten teachers going on Scratch, and we have Ozobots, and we have the B-bots that we bought the kindergarten teachers. We have microbits. We had Brian Aspinall come in. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with who he is, but he's a pretty big computer science guru. We got the grant a few years ago for the professional development. And so we bought microbits and stuff too. And so I'm trying to talk our science teacher in the middle school to using those to do things like check out the how much water their plants have and the temperature and all those kind of cool things. So we just keep adding tools and hopeful that we're going to get more going. But my big push right now is to try to we had the Buck Institute come in, which you know, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
And so do more project-based learning and then let teachers kind of get their driving question and then let us help them find ways that they can incorporate computer science into the curriculum.
So part of why I asked Kelley is because I knew that Osage has been working on this for a long time. So I don't want any of you to feel discouraged. Know that it's been really incremental, right, Kelley? And I, at least, because I used to work with Kelley before I worked at Grant Wood, I would say that there were champions, but there were few of you, and every year it grows a little more, right?
Yep. And we still have a lot of pockets of resistance. Yeah. So it's not 100% buy-in, but we keep trying.
Yes, but you keep going. That's awesome. Okay, so all of you have mentioned a bunch of different resources already. I've been trying to keep a list, but I'm curious, are there resources that we haven't heard you mention yet that are really essential to this work and to you being successful? And also along those lines, I guess I'm curious about your training in those as well. So how is it that you come across those resources, and what type of training have you had that helped you to be successful? I don't know who wants to start. Amanda, you want to start this time? Okay.
We have got training with the free training through code.org to all of our teachers, all of our math and science teachers last year. I have done training in terms of I've done 3 of the 4 classes to get my computer science endorsement, and I just have one more, but it is only offered in the spring. So I am, and also our teachers have been getting a lot of training about coding throughout on our PD days to help them develop an interest and a comfort level in coding as well. And as far as other resources, I have a ton, but all of them are just little pieces of what I use to get kids interested in coding. I really love code.org. It's really helpful, but then there's also, it can get monotonous. So they have to have that little break from the puzzles. And so we do some other stuff. I foray onto Scratch, which I've done a lot of that training on my own, really from free resources that people have all over the internet for it. And then also I've been starting to get into Tinker because that's what we use for Project Lead the Way. And Tinker is really good with getting teacher resources as well. And there's lots of free resources out there for training on that. And I really think that the biggest thing on training is to jump into your curriculum and do those activities because you never know how to help your kids unless you're like, you already know how to do this thing. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Thank you. Tim, do you mind going next?
Sure. Well, my training, I started my education career in college as computer engineering, and realized I didn't really want to live the life of an engineer, so switched on to math education. So I already had a little bit of background in coding, and really I found out that I love robotics, and that's where I really shine. And when I came to Madrid, after I taught in Urbandale for 6 years, and when I came to Madrid, there was the ELP teachers like, hey, we're doing this robotics competition. You want to help out? And I'm like, yes. And then I ended up taking over that the next year. And the year after that, we actually took first in state, so in a competition. So, but I got to always get that plug in there. But no, the robotics is what led me to it. And so whenever I learn or get into anything new with programming, I really just kind of dive into it with a very strange fervor of somebody who's obsessed with learning something new or playing with something new. So I just usually just get in there and do whatever I can. And like that Code Combat game, I got in there and like beat the whole thing and did every level, whatever. And the kids are shocked and amazed by that. I'm like, didn't take me that long. I just was weirdly obsessed with it. But I do the same thing with the code.org, particularly the game lab. I just keep making little games, pretty much remaking Nintendo games from my youth, and it's fun for me, and that's where I get a lot of my training for it, is just messing with it. The only formal training I've really had is the code.org CS Discoveries class I took last summer.
Great. All right, I'm gonna go to Kelley next. Sorry, Terra.
I also have done the code fundamentals and discovery. I go to iTech every year to get ideas, and then I just mess around with stuff too, like Tim was saying. Gone to ISTE, to FETC, any workshops the AEA offers too that I feel are applicable. And then I do almost all the STEM training with our teachers when we get the STEM scale-up grants. So that gives me some idea of how to use some of those things as well.
Thanks, Kelley. Okay, Terra.
So as far as classes, I took a few classes, coding classes at Iowa State and UNI. I did the code.org science, computer science discoveries with the cohort. I took Delta V, so this is the plug for Delta V. Samantha, I don't know if Samantha's on yet, but so I don't know if you guys are familiar with Delta V, but Delta V is a very intense coding program through NuboCo. And I did that just to kind of expand my knowledge a little bit, to kind of see what it's like, because I know that some of our students at the high school, I think, may really benefit from jumping into that program. I've done a lot of webinars, that type of thing, to help kind of further my learning, as well as reaching out just to my PLN. There's a lot of wonderful people out there that are willing to go ahead and share resources as well. So that's kind of where I've got my background learning. As far as resources, I guess my biggest thing is trying to give kids an opportunity. Since I teach computer science for all of our students, some kids love creating video games. Some kids hate it. Some kids love designing websites and being able to go ahead and, that they have the ability to go ahead and kind of organize things. They love that. So giving them the opportunity to do that. But I also have, students who really like to build with their hands and being able to see things move. And so one of the big things as far as resources, I know, playing around with Hummingbird, bird brain technologies. It's something that typically I've always used in the past, Vex Robotics for my robotics program, or our Lego Mindstorm kits for robotics. But there's definitely a very much like a power in having kids learn how to make robots out of cardboard, and using the Hummingbird motors, and just getting them to understand you don't have to have something super complex or super technical to be able to go ahead and make something super awesome. And so I think one of the things as far as, and even making makeys, my 5th graders made interactive stories for the kindergartners at our nearby school. So we have a school an elementary school right next to us. And so the fact that the kids made a product and made something and then took it over to the kindergartners and was, shared their interactive books that they created with the Making Makeys. I think just anything that to get kids excited about computer science, I think is what's really helped.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to jump around those questions. So what I'm wondering now is if you all would share, what are some challenges that you've faced kind of getting computer science into your building, your district, your classroom, whatever your setting is? And then if you could share, what are some ways that you were able to address or overcome those challenges, or maybe you're still facing them? That would be fine. Tim, you kind of alluded to this already. Would you be willing to start this one?
Sure. The biggest issue, it seems, is scheduling. Normally you would say, you need a teacher willing to do it, and they had one, and somebody who's like, sure, I'll volunteer in any of my free time to do this. And they're like, really? I'm like, I think it's important. They thought I was weird, but they're getting used to it. But the scheduling was the issue, because they have this system for our specials called a hex, which is about 6 weeks, where we have 6 different specials, and you'll go to every special every year for 7th and 8th grade. And the issue is trying to add a new one means you have a sept and a hex, and it doesn't blend well. And I came up with some alternative schedules, and they say, but we never change our schedule. How dare you even think about looking at the schedule? I'm like, but it won't actually change anything. It will just, no. So what they did was they allowed me to teach a hex that is concurrent with another hex. So it actually just pulls certain kids who were interested into mine, which of course means it's 90% male and 99% the nerdy type kids who are already probably interested in computer science things. And I'm like, well, that's better than nothing, I guess. But I came up with a good plan that would work off of quarters where everybody would get everything, especially since we just moved the 6th grade over to us. So we're going to try to be blending to a middle school model. And I'm like, well, we can make this work here. And they're still giving me the stink eye about don't change anything. I'm not somebody who says, this is how we've always done it, so that's how it has to be. It's like, well, let's always try to push for better. We should always strive in everything we do to be better and never just accept good is good enough. But then they just say, yeah, we'll just be done talking to you for now. But at least I got my hex. So I get my hex and I get my nerdy boys who show up, and I keep trying to push it into my math classroom as much as I possibly can. And I get some complaints from some parents. Is this on your standards? Yes, it's called the Standards of Mathematical Practice. But I do try to integrate it into as much as I do. I have a robotics unit for both 7th and 8th grade. Heck, I even have a chess unit in 7th grade because I'm like, problem solving. It's a big deal. So I try to blend it as much as I can, but I just wish I could get more, because I was wanting to do web design and game design as 2 separate ones. That was my plan for this year. So students last year who did game design could do web design, and people who were interested in others, so I could broaden and diversify and hopefully get more of the girls involved with. I noticed that I am the lone male in a group of females, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm sure it feels the same way for the girls. It's like, I feel outnumbered and like I'm in the wrong place. And I actually had some who tried to switch out of my class when they came.
That same issue with my enrichment class. I pulled in kids who were interested, and a lot of the girls were kind of like, obviously this is a boys' class. And I'm like, no, it really isn't. You just need to invite more of your friends.
I feel like if I could do more web design, I might be able to get more of that perspective, because that seems to be what is driving a lot of my girls' interest right now. So.
My Zoom just closed and reopened spontaneously. I'm not sure if any of you saw that, so I apologize. And I didn't hear the last part, so I apologize. How about Terra? You want to share some challenges? I know, and how you're working to address them. I feel like to summarize what I heard from Tim was persistence, right? Is like being
ridiculous amounts of persistence. I'm the most stubborn person you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, but you know, we're going to reframe that as persistence. Grit instead of stubbornness. I mean, I think all are fine.
Convince my wife of that.
Got it. Go ahead, Terra.
So as far as like getting computer science and getting certain things into our school, I really, this is going to sound horrible, but I got students to help me out with it. Because as much as you can get students' voice, student surveys, students speaking up, I think that's going to be the biggest part of helping you make any kind of transition or any kind of push. Because I can say that it's really important, but when the students start really speaking up about it and wanting it, I think that makes a big difference. I think also having my tech club has really, really helped. Because our tech club has been pretty successful and the kids have been pretty outspoken and vocal and wanting to share what they're doing and what they're learning with other kids. And so they're constantly talking about it, constantly promoting. And I think that's kind of our biggest thing. So it was more, I think one of my obstacles, well, there's several, but as far as getting computer science in, it's, hey, whatever you want to do. It's kind of really what my administration says. They're pretty open. So then it's a matter of, oh, I'm a big picture person. And so I want to kind of keep pushing whatever we're doing up to the high school. And that's where I think we're struggling at, is we're doing a lot at the middle school and then there's no follow-up at the high school. And the kids are really starting to kind of push the envelope. Like, so what's going on? Where are we gonna do, you know, STEM kind of stuff in the high school level? And they're really starting to kind of push. So I'm hoping that that's going to be eventually changed in our district. But to me, it's the students are the ones that really help make the difference. So I know I didn't really answer your questions for obstacles, but
yes, you did. You're all good. Amanda.
Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle in my school was just the fact that the teachers had to make a coding project for the kids. And when we had teachers that weren't really confident about this stuff, they were kind of like, oh, let's just do it really quick and get it over with. And I was like, that's not the attitude that I want from you. I want you to go, oh, this is a new thing that the kids are going to enjoy doing. Let's, you know, push them and have them do the best that they can on it. But I found that offering my services during my prep time and stuff like that to help the teachers get set up with how can they do this has really helped. They feel like when they feel like they're being supported in this endeavor, it's really helpful. And also I said, I mean, I have your kids once every 6 days. I can help with that project. If you don't rush it along, I can definitely be in there while they're doing the project. And it took a lot of sort of pushing the teachers to really take their time on it and think through it and make a really nice project that they want their students to achieve instead of just trying to get it over with because it's a requirement. But this year, I think they're a lot more confident, and I think that they're ready to tackle it this year. So hopefully.
That's great. Kelley.
I would echo what Amanda said too, that I think the teachers were just really nervous about it to start with. Felt like they didn't have any background in it. We're just like, you hear computer science and they're thinking, well, I can't code, I can't do that. But as we brought training in, whether it was in-house training or code.org came in twice with our elementary, Brian Aspinall was in, I'd put a plug in right now for that CSPD grant that's due November 9th that you guys should all be looking at, because there's a lot of great things that you can do. We sent people to Philadelphia, to Seattle with that first grant. And so it's totally worth it. And time is our other big issue. People are like, well, I have all these things to do. How can I make the time to do this. And so my big push right now, like I was saying earlier, is just to try to get more incorporated instead of the standalone piece, to incorporate it more into the curriculum and figure out ways to get teachers to see how easy that is to do. If they just try it that first time, I think we can get them going. And we have some that are already doing it. So I'm not trying to say we don't have some, but more. We want everybody.
We have about 3 minutes left. So I'm gonna ask if there are questions from those of you that are here as participants. I scared Samantha away. I didn't. Do you guys have questions or comments? I saw some head nodding and agreeing. What are you thinking?
I think Terra just sent me down my next rabbit hole with the Delta V.
Yes, that's an
I
awesome program.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm going to be looking into that.
So the other fun part that Terra can probably share too is that Samantha's husband is one of the instructors. So you get all the Dalbies.
Yes, you do. Uh-huh.
And I think that one of the big themes is really jumping into it, and then also I think conveying that excitement and wonder and look at all the cool things I can do to your kids, because that's the thing that really gets them energized about this stuff, is like, you made this, you did it, and you can share it with your friends too. So
I think the biggest thing is a lot of my students really started making leaps and bounds when I modified the computer science discoveries curriculum a lot, in which I would take something that one of the students had made in the past, like before, and then I would send it to as a remix for the students to go ahead and take whatever concept we were working on and implement that into a project at the very end. So like quickly, like have something super cool that we were just practicing this particular skill or concept, but then they were able to see it. And I know code.org made improvements, which was, I'm glad they made some improvements to their computer science discoveries that I thought was really helpful. But I think even just those small little pieces like helped make those kids feel a little more confident in being able to see their skills actually be put into play into something that's kind of cool.
I'd say too, like with the W3 school, those kids who are getting it pretty quickly, ask them about doing something a little bit different. How can you modify this? How can you do gradient or, you know, things like that? And then they get pretty excited to be able to go to that resource and figure it out on their own.
I used that in my computer science class that I took in college for my computer science endorsement, W3 schools, and I sent it as a resource to my teacher.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then those kids become the experts, right? Like that's what I did in my computer science classroom was it's like, all right, well, you learned how to do that. Now, when I get that question, I'm just pushing them right to you and you empower them to really be the one that knows. We have a countdown going. I think it's pretty obvious. Bev, you unmuted and then muted. Did you have a question or something to add?
No, I just wanted to say shout out to the panelists. It was really helpful just to listen as we're trying to think about new opportunities. So thank you for that.
All right, gang.
And I just like to say that I'm always available for anybody who wants to email, things like that. I'm really open to getting new people to talk to.
Good.
I'd echo that too. If Corey sent out a list of emails or something, that more than willing to answer any questions.
You guys, we are stronger together. I was just asked, like, why did I want to be part of CSTA? I was like, to have friends, to not be the lone